All right, guys, thank you for joining me. My second interview of the day. Today I have Red Bank Catholic coach Frank Lawrence. Frank, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's great to be here, Nick.
Um, yeah, a lot to talk about. First, I'd like to get to know, I think I was at Brookdale when you coached at Brookdale.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's good. I was there for quite a few years, so
I was
yeah,
there late 90s, early
yeah,
2000s.
yeah.
So,
That's when I started. 1997, I started there.
and it's funny, the boys coach, Professor Ridley, I had him for one of my professors.
Yeah, he's now at Raritan High School.
Okay.
He's supervisor of department or something like that.
The last time I saw him, I was on the train to a Yankee game, and he was on it
Oh,
with a
there you
bunch of
go.
with the.
He's Yeah, he's one of the biggest Yankee fans you'll meet.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah.
So when did you start coaching?
So in the late 80s, I started coaching club soccer for my daughter, really. A bunch of kids who she was playing with. We started one of the first girls' teams at Peninsula Soccer Club.
Okay.
I'm not sure the exact year, but it was around 1988-ish. It was kind of a new thing in the area for club soccer. We think of club soccer as such a big thing in the area as it is now. And 30 years ago, there weren't a lot of girls' teams
No,
playing.
I remember when my sister's traveling team started. There wasn't a lot
Right.
going on.
Right.
That was probably just a few years after that. When did you start at RBC?
Started RBC in 2013.
How long were you at Brookdale?
I coached there for 14 years.
Wow, yes, it's a good tenure.
It was a good tenure, and we had a lot of success there. This is a very different environment. There's no recruiting, which is a nice thing. Although I'm sure a lot of people think I'm out recruiting every day. I've actually never gone out and recruited in all the years I've been here. Not that I don't pay attention. People contact us. Really, is the way it happens. People contact us and say, we're interested, and then we have a conversation about it. But I don't miss having to drive vans, and take them out to dinner, so there's, this is a great coaching environment. It was one of the very few schools I would have even considered coaching at.
Yeah, RBC, back when I was in high school, even when I was writing for the newspaper, they've been successful, since the late 90s, very successful program.
Yeah, long time back. They've always had successful and with a number of different coaches. So but it's been very successful for a long period of time.
Yeah, I think Santos was the coach when I was in.
Right. Yeah, Ken Santos was coach for quite a few years before I took over. Probably at least 10.
Yeah.
But there were several very successful coaches before Ken as well.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up recruiting. The sense I get, you don't see it in soccer for high school as you do, basketball or, football even. I feel like, the kids pick, soccer, they know what school they want to go to, and, it just happens.
Yeah, I think so. I think, not that there isn't, there's a lot of conversations, I think, at club team level. So somebody's going there and they're like, oh, it's great, I love it, why don't you come there? I think there's a lot of kids doing that kind of work. But, I think we have a reputation of helping kids develop and having success. And kids, good players want to be around successful programs. And so, again, I don't do any recruiting, but we get, plenty of excellent players every year. So. Yeah.
And it goes, with your track record too, kids will going to want to play, college coach.
And look, I think coaching is important. I think coaching helps. Talent is is important, and having players who have the commitment to want to become better players. Then you can coach. When you have those kinds of kids, you can coach.
Yeah.
If you don't have those kinds of kids, you're just kind of spending time out there.
I want to talk a little bit, since you've been in RBC, some of the accomplishments you've achieved, and your teams have achieved since you've been at RBC.
So, kind of interestingly, my first year in 2013, we won the Shore Conference championship, which was, nobody expected it. I think we were a number 6 seed, and going into the season, I looked at our team and I thought we can do this. I don't think anybody else thought so. I'm not sure the kids thought so. I don't think anybody thought of us as being on that level. They thought we were down a little bit that year, but we had a core group of seniors who were willing to make the sacrifices they had to make to get us over the hump. And we had a phenomenal goaltender, a couple of great defenders, and we rode that with a bunch of 1-0 wins. If I'm not mistaken, we won either 10 or 11 games 1-0. And that's, I used to joke about it. I had, no gray hair before that season, which isn't really true. But, when you have to work your way through those games, although toward the end of the season, I knew that if we got up 1-0, we were winning the game because the kids understood how to lock it down. They understood how to play. They understood how to keep the intensity level up and get through the game and to finish it out. And that's exactly what we did. We did it we won the semifinals. I think we were quarterfinals in a shootout, semifinals 1-0 in overtime, and the finals 1-0 in the last scored in the last 10 minutes of the game. So, and that was, again, kind of unexpected by everybody but me, I think. I knew that there were some really good teams out there that weren't going to be easy to beat, but I didn't see why we couldn't win it. And that was we had, I think, 11 seniors on that team. So the next couple of years, although, we were still good and we were competitive and we were, it took us another couple of years to kind of get back to that level with some new kids coming in. And then, so in 2016, we won state championship in parochial A. Again, a really great team, good bunch of seniors on that team, a really good bunch of sophomores on that team who really carried the program the next couple of years. And then 2018, we lost in Shore Conference Finals, 1-0 in a game that, like most coaches, I felt we should win. Our leading goal scorer had broken her wrist and was out for about a month. And that was the first day she was cleared. She got cleared at like 4:00 in the afternoon and the game was at 7:00 at night. So, she was rusty. She really struggled. And in the second half, we had a bunch of opportunities and just couldn't finish and ended up losing 1-0. And then last year, again, and that was a year where we graduated, I think, 6 Division I athletes, and then came back the next year and won it. And I think really in a fairly dominating way. I mean, when I looked around and watched other teams, I thought we were a lot better than everybody else last year.
Yeah, I got to catch one of your the Middletown South semis I was
Right.
at, and I thought you guys controlled that game completely. And, Middletown, you guys put 2 on them, and Middletown South had a very strong defense last season.
Right.
But you guys the whole game, I just thought you guys controlled, the possessions. You guys had the best opportunities. Their goalie made some pretty good saves that game, too.
Yeah, she did.
And then, Morgan was able to, I think she scored.
She scored both goals.
Yeah, she did score both.
Yeah.
And, it was just, it was, I enjoy watching, those type of teams, the way your team was playing. Now talking a little bit about last season, what other accomplishments? I know you guys played Pingree in the States, which Pingree is always since I've been in school seemed like they're always contending for a state title.
Yeah, and they've been kind of our nemesis the last 2 years, and you know how they seed based on PowerPoints, and the interesting thing is all year long we're in the lead, like quite significantly in the lead as the #1 seed. And the benefit last year was that you would host, whereas in the past the sectional finals were at a neutral site.
Yes.
Last year they switched it to say you would host if you were the #1, if you were the top seed. So it was really important, and the whole season we're in the lead, and Pingree in the last week beat a couple of really good teams and ended up 1 point ahead of us out of like 140 points. I mean, it's not like it's 1 point in 10, it's 1 point in 140 or some ridiculous number like that. And, it just shows you the importance, and, it's a tough lesson to learn because we only lost one game, up to that game, and we tied one game. And if we hadn't tied that game, we would have been the host. And I really do think that we got there, and it's it's this beautiful campus, and a really nice grass field, but we don't play a lot on grass. We practice on turf, we play our games on turf. Most of the teams now in the Shore Conference have turf.
Yeah.
So we get on a grass field, and it's a little different. And I think they brought out their entire student body to watch the game. And I think our kids just got a little intimidated, a little nervous. We gave up a couple really early goals. And we just couldn't recover from it. And, it's a bit unfortunate. I mean, I think you try to learn from those things about what we could have done differently. It's one of those things that in the first 5 minutes of the games, I'm like, God, I wish I had a timeout. Because if you're playing basketball, you would have called it.
Yeah.
Any basketball coach would have called timeout before they would have scored the first goal and tried to settle us down. But you can't do that. The kids have to just take care of it themselves. So it was certainly disappointing. But, as I tell the kids at the end of the year, it's the whole body of work is what's important. Mm-hmm. And winning the Shore Conference to me is always the most important thing we do. People don't understand, people who are not around here don't understand that well.
The same way for basketball.
That's right. It's like, important. Of course we want to win a state championship, but I'll trade a Shore Conference championship for a state championship any day of the week, because it's, and when you talk to people from out of the area and you say, it's 2 counties, it's 45 schools, public, private, big, small, winning state, they're all, winning state championships at a lot of different levels. So to win it is so difficult. And RBC has won 7 times, which is the record. And if we can play it this year, I think we'll be winning the 8th. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you my opinion, when we start previewing your team for this season, but especially last season, you talk about, how hard, it's difficult to win the Shore Conference. I think the top 6, 7 teams, they were so competitive, there was so much talent on these teams, probably the top 7 ranked teams in the Shore. I'm not even talking the Shore bracket, because to me, some of those seedings did not make sense to me. I travel around, I see a lot of these teams. Like I said, Trinity Hall was going to be bricked. Like they weren't a 22 seed.
Right.
And Trinity Hall was playing good at that time. Now, speaking of them playing good at that time, your only loss was Middletown South up until states. What was the mindset going into the Shore Conference game, with them being the only loss?
So we lost that game in overtime. And we had kind of dominated the beginning of the game, but didn't put away enough goals. We had enough chances, but we only got one. And we gave up a goal on a set piece, and then in overtime gave up a goal on, a couple of mistakes, defensive mistakes. So our mindset was we were a better team. We felt, and I think every player felt it, the coaches felt it, we were a better team. We just needed to play our style of soccer. And that game was very early in the season. And I think it was about our third game of the season. And we were starting a sophomore goalie who really didn't play as a freshman. She may have gotten in a little bit here and there, but not much. And she wasn't really quite confident yet in her position. And as the season progressed, even though we're a high-scoring team, I always thought our defense got overlooked. I thought we were a very good defensive team. And she was a big part of it. And once she got into a couple of games where she made some big saves, and she started to realize that she was a really excellent goaltender, then it solidified everything for us. And she made a couple of good saves in the short conference semifinals.
Yes, she did.
And in the finals as well. She made one really big play early in the finals, which that Tom's River team is one of those teams that you give up a goal and they're going to pack it in and they're going to be tough to score on. So, being the first goal in was important in both of those games. And then in the in the Middletown South game, Morgan Cupo, who was only a sophomore at the time, she's such a competitive player. Middletown South was the only team up to that point who had stopped her from scoring. She scored in every game other than Middletown South. So she wasn't going to get stopped twice. And, she proved it. She scored 2 great goals. And probably would have scored a third at the very end of the game, but except for getting fouled. But and then they let the clock run out. Which listen, I don't have a big fight about that part of it. But she was just determined that she was going to score, and she's a super competitive kid. When she's out on that field, she has one thing in mind and one thing only. And that's to beat you. And you have those kinds of kids. And we had her and as a senior, Reagan Powles, who was the same kind of kid. And if you watch that game, you just see how dynamic she was in both the semifinals and the finals in terms of controlling the game, just being the most effective kid on the field, through the entirety of the game. It's kind of funny. She technically was a forward, kind of attacking midfielder, withdrawn forward position. She played wherever she wanted to play. And not that she and I didn't talk about this kind of stuff and I understood it. I gave her a lot of freedom because she was a really super smart kid. She's going to Cornell, so she's smart, but she also has a very high soccer IQ. And really wanted to win. Here's her senior year. She wanted to go out on top, and she did. She would do anything possible to win those games.
Yeah, it's great. Especially the seniors that really want it. Speaking, you didn't have many seniors on this roster last season. So going into this season, who do you think is going to take that leadership role that she had?
So in this year's senior group, there's basically 3 kids who were all starters last year, essentially starters. Emma Bruther being one, who was the starter in the beginning of the year, got hurt and missed, I think, at least half the season. And when she came back, I brought her in off the bench because I felt that she was a very different player. We had Caitlin Bertoldo playing up top, who was a very opportunistic player. She was the kind of kid who on a set piece would suddenly find herself in front of the net and knew how to finish. Scored a lot of really good goals for us. And I just felt that bringing Emma off the bench, here was suddenly this very dynamic, fast, great left-footed shot, would change our dynamics, and she did. It was key in the finals in winning that game. So Emma is a senior, and she's the third Bruther who has played for me, which is kind of one of the really neat things about a place like RBC. There's always sisters coming along, which is really great. Secondly, Maddie Drummond, who plays kind of the holding midfield position, just a great role player. Just somebody, she's not flashy. She's not going to score goals. She's not going to do anything that you go, wow, that kid. She just does all the hard work, sitting in front of the defense, making sure that, she's cutting off the pass and protecting the center backs. Just a great kid to have out on the field. And then Aubrey Silverman, who as a sophomore played outside midfield for us. Last year moved to outside defender, which she plays a lot. It's where she plays a lot in her club team. And those are kids who everybody else respects. They're all hard workers. I'm sorry.
She made one. Didn't she make all sure second?
Yes. So she was first team all sure.
First team. Yeah.
Yeah. So last year we had 3 first team all sure players: Reagan, Morgan, and Aubrey. Yeah. And it's kind of neat because it's basically a forward, a midfielder, and a defender. And it just kind of shows that we weren't a one-dimensional team. I think people thought that, oh, it's Morgan up top and that's it. It wasn't. We were a really well-balanced team. So those 3 are really kind of in that role. But one of the interesting thing is Reagan's younger sister is now a sophomore, and Noelle played probably on average 35, 45 minutes a game last year as a freshman, coming off the bench for us. This year, she's going to kind of fit right into Reagan's mold. She's a very talented player, has some similarities to Reagan, different, a little different in terms of her personality, but on the field, she's a very dynamic, great player.
Yeah, and you have your junior class is pretty with Morgan. Your goalie's is a junior, right?
Correct.
And
then Abby.
Yeah, she looked pretty good in the good sports.
Yeah, Abby's a very underrated player. A lot of people just don't seem to recognize just how good she is. She got great technical skills. She has a really good shot. I'm hoping that she'll be a little bit more involved in the offense this year. Last year, she kind of played a slightly more defensive role in the midfield. And because there was, she was a sophomore. She was a starter for us as a sophomore. But she had Reagan there. She had Paige Theobald, who's at St. Francis University playing this year. So another Division I player. And I think she tended to kind of defer a little bit. This year, she's going to step into a more dynamic part of the team. And then another sophomore, Gianna Romeo, who was similar to Noelle. She came off the bench last year, played, 25, 35 minutes a game, scored some really good goals for us. She's a kid who I think people are going to have to pay attention to this year. She's a star in the making.
Now, you said you have there's a big freshman class coming in. Which players have stood out? And when you doing the phases, the state phases and stuff.
Yeah, well, actually, interestingly, we didn't do any of the phases. The restrictions that the state put on us made it, very difficult for us to have done any of those. I had 45 kids. Well, so in theory, that I would need 4 coaches, 5 coaches, just to divide them up. I don't have 5 coaches, so that wasn't going to work. And if you don't go through phase 1, you can't go through phase 2. So the girls organized what would in the old days you would have called captain's practices. They actually had a trainer do it. It was hard for me because I was allowed to watch, but I wasn't allowed to participate. I wasn't allowed to direct anything. So I did get to see them a little bit. And then we had a high school festival at Good Sports, which I was allowed to coach. So I got to watch them, but not all of them for that. So there's some kids I haven't even seen yet, which I'm really excited to see. But there are several freshmen who I think who are going to play a role for us this year. And, I've talked about younger sisters coming along. So we have Giovanna Harris, whose older sister, Jalissa, played for us, was on the state championship team on 2016, plays at the University of South Carolina, starts every game, plays 90 minutes almost every game for a top 10 national power. And has done a great job. It's kind of fun because of course I get the SEC network, and so anytime she's on, I'm watching her play, and it's really neat to see somebody who you've coached at the high school level doing so well at the college level. And she's really one of their key players. I mean, I think if you listen to their coach, she talks about her all the time. So Giovanna is a little different kind of player. She plays center back, whereas Jalissa was more of an offensive threat for us. But Giovanna is a really superb player, super high expectations for her this year. Not in the future going forward, this year. I expect her to be a significant part of our team this year. We have another freshman, Maya King, who plays up top. Really strong kid, Giovanna doesn't look like a freshman. Maya doesn't look like a freshman. There's another kid, Mia Gonzalez. I'm going to have problems with Mia and Maya's, but, they don't look at all alike, and play different positions, but just the names are too similar for me. Maya plays center mid, big kid, very smooth, very composed on the ball. A real good presence there, so she'll be spending some time there. So, those 3 to me are certainly kids who I think are, going to step right in and have some impact with us. But we also have a transfer. So we played Toms River North in the finals last year, and they had a freshman starting as a outside midfielder, and she is transferred into RBC this year. Her family moved to Middletown, and so she's transferred in. So you think about, you had a starter on the short conference finalist, who's now on our team, and she's a very good player. I'm looking forward to being able to have some time to work with her because we play a different system than what they did. And so for her to get to understand how we play. But she's, in the little bit I have worked with her, she seems to get it quickly and fits in really well.
Yeah, it sounds like your team's very deep.
Yeah, depth is it for us this year, without doubt.
But you don't normally see in the private schools,
No, and I've looked back, and after that, spent some time just looking at past rosters and stuff, and really when you look at those teams, they're very successful teams, but we were playing maybe 14 kids, and maybe not even that deep when we got into tournament time, and this year I mean, I can see us playing 18, 20 kids and not, it's almost like coaching hockey, roll them in, here's a whole nother wave of kids coming in, and the drop off is going to be kind of insignificant. So it's kind of exciting to see.
I want to talk about the schedule a little bit. Who's in your division?
So Raritan,
Okay.
Rumson Fairhaven, Shore, Homedale, Ocean, Monmouth Regional.
Okay.
So, it's like all divisions. I mean, there's some strong teams in there. I think Homedale this year is going to be a very good team. Shore and Rumson are always competitive with us because it's a big rivalry.
Yep.
So, those are the three teams that we're going to have to, work really hard to win. And it's very different this year because we're playing them twice in 1 week.
That's actually huge,
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. We've been talking a little bit about strategies for that. Do you, in the first game, do you throw something at them and then come into the second game with something totally different? It's interesting because in all the years I've coached, I have rarely coached to the other team.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, if somebody has a signature kid, I might deal with that. But I don't change our formations and do that based on what everybody else does. I look at our team and try to put out a formation that I think gives us the best chance of success for us. And then let the other teams adjust to us. I think we have the talent to kind of do that. So, I don't think we need to make big changes, but what it does give me an opportunity to do is say, okay, because I think I've got 16 starters. So I'll switch them up a little in those 2 games. You're starting this game, but the next game you're coming off the bench, and which will give me an opportunity to give more players playing time and try to keep them all equally unhappy. If that might have to be my word for the year.
When I was talking to Coach Caruso a couple of days ago, he said one challenge he sees with the schedule is if you lose pretty bad the first game, or even if you win dominantly, how to keep to motivate the team for the next game. When you play the same team 2 days later, he said that was one of the challenges he saw with the way the schedule's lined up. Yeah,
and in the past they always played everybody twice. Yeah, and I always thought that was the problem. And I was actually one of the advocates for switching to having everybody play only once, which had tremendous benefits for everybody. When you start looking at seeding, now you have far more teams that you have in common.
Yeah.
I actually propose that you play everybody in your division once, and you have to play at least one team in every other division, which would really help in seeding because now you would have common. And listen, nobody at the bottom of one of the other divisions is going to schedule us.
Yeah.
We're not going to schedule them. They're not going to schedule us.
A good team.
So you're going to schedule the top teams, and the bottom teams are going to schedule the bottom teams. It would have, I think, benefited everybody. But so this system, now you're going to play on a Tuesday, and you beat them 8-0. How you motivate, again, that motivation, it's human nature that the kids are going to go, all we got to do is show up.
Yeah.
All right. I fortunately can show them that last year we beat Shore 8-1 in the regular season, and in the Shore Conference, round of 16, I think it was.
Yeah.
We're down 2-0 against them. So, you can't take days off, and you can't go in with that attitude, and that's why I do think I will probably play with the lineup a little bit, not in terms of how we play, but just in who's out. Yeah. There, and use that as motivation to keep it, to make sure we come out in the same way.
before we start wrapping up, what are some goals you have for your team? Because I said as soon as the season ended, you guys were going to be preseason number one, and I still stand by that. I see maybe Freehold and Middletown South being right behind you, but I think with everybody that you had returning, I think clear cut you guys were going to be the number one preseason. What are some of the goals you set for this season? I know it's an awkward year because you don't know if there's going to be a short tournament or whatnot, but assuming there is a short tournament, what are some goals?
So at the end of last year, we had our soccer banquet. I said to the team, we're going to be better next year. That's the goal. We're better. We're going to be better next year. I said, with everybody we have coming back, and at that point, I already knew about some of the kids who were coming in. I said, we're going to be better. Now, do you win it all and everything? Well, you got to perform, and there's a lot of things that can happen. But, I've been preaching this ever since the end of last season. We are going to be deeper. We're going to be more competitive. This is the most competitive year ever for playing time. Our objective is we're winning every game, and we are going to go out there and whatever the finality of this season is, our intention is to prove to everybody that we are the best team in the Shore Conference, if not one of the best teams in the state. One of the things is we saw a bye week in there where we didn't have any games, and we started looking at I'll play anybody. I'll play anybody in the state. So we're playing Watchung Hills.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Bridgewater Raritan.
Okay.
Always a state perennial strong team. Mm-hmm. I'm great. Let's play them. I reached out to all those really good teams and said, who wants a game? Yeah. And so my feeling is we don't know what the postseason is going to look like yet, and we won't know until mid-October. But going back to goals, our number one goal is we want to play a whole season. Mm-hmm. And one of the challenges for that is everybody's got to stay healthy. Everybody's got to do things. Got to make some sacrifices. Yeah. Don't go to parties. Don't get sick. Don't do things that jeopardize the team. So number one goal is, hey, everybody take care of themselves, think about the team, make sure that you're doing all the right things, and let's get through and play every game we can possibly play this year, all the way to the end, play in every single game. And if you do that, I think we can show that we are still the team to beat in the area.
I agree. And it's funny, Coach Caruso brought up the same thing about team not doing it, staying healthy, about going to parties, and you can't, I brought up the Point Borough baseball team. I think one player was at a party maybe that where the Manasquan kids had right. COVID, and they had to withdraw, and not one kid tested positive, but they still were forced to withdraw from that Last Dance tournament.
Right.
So,
right.
It's, different time this year, everyone has to do things a little bit different.
Yeah. And there's a lot of challenges, I'm going to be out on a field with a mask on every day, and we're doing things like separating JV and varsity kind of right away. Mm-hmm. Normally I don't do that. We kind of practice together, we play together, and it helps because some of those JV kids eventually move up. Yeah. And so they have a better, and we can't really do that because we don't want, if a kid in JV gets sick, well, we've isolated it. Yeah. There's just a lot of things that we have to do differently. But as I've told a lot of people, one of the things athletics teaches you and coaching teaches you is how to adapt. Mm-hmm. You change game plans, you adapt as a game goes on. Well, this is another part of adaptation where we have to learn some new rules, deal with them as effectively as humanly possible, and another kind of teaching thing of trying to get kids to understand, okay, this is difficult. We're all making sacrifices. There's obstacles to get through, but that's life, and that's what we're doing.
it's funny you brought that up at DAP. When the pandemic started is when I started doing these interviews, and I did a lot of girl basketball players, and a lot of them said, to change and adapt in. And I said, listen, that's teaching you. That's a good teaching tool for when you go to college. Like, I interviewed a lot of, juniors that are going to be seniors. So, next year, because, it's going to be totally different, especially if you're planning on playing sports. You're going to have to learn the balance. It's not like high school where the teachers break everything down for you. You get a syllabus in college and that's it. That's it. You got to.
Yeah.
You don't get reminded that a paper's due. So I said that, it's good, that, this change was, and a lot of the players agreed with me, so.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is, they listen, and I've been around a long time. So you just see all the different things that you have to deal with. And I think one of the great things athletics teaches you is how to deal with overcoming challenges and obstacles, because you face them every day. And you've got to learn how to deal with them, and you got to learn how to deal with teammates, and you have to learn how to deal with a boss. I tell the parents this in my parents' meeting. If you want to talk to me about something, the first question I'm going to ask is, or I'm going to tell you, your daughter has not talked to me about this yet. So tell your daughter to come and talk to me about it, because that teaches them how to deal with an authority figure. And I try to be, a nice guy up to a point, but I also, I'm sure I intimidate some of the kids. Some of them not so much. Morgan Kupo is not intimidated by me. She's just a great kid. She's just somebody who's like, immediately talks to me like, we're best friends, which I love about her. I think I think she's just one of those kids who is, she understands it. She understands life. I think she gets it. That hey, when I cross that white line, I'm a warrior through the whole game. Yeah. When I come back on the other side, I'm just another 16-year-old kid having fun, And I just love that kind of attitude. We have a lot of kids like that, and I just think soccer is. I think all athletics is this way. I think I have a special love of soccer. It's been something I've loved for a long time. I played in college. I've coached for a long time. And so I of course see it through some jaded eyes, but I really think it's a great part of the learning experience as you go from being a young kid to adulthood.
Yeah, I agree. And, soccer's been in my family, since I was little too. So, that's the main sport in my household. So,
yeah, it's always good.
Yeah. Coach, thank you for joining me.
No problem.
Great, meeting you. And I look forward to watching your team this season, getting to a couple of games.
Yeah, great.
The one thing that stinks with the schedule, I said to the other coaches with me, is if there's a couple good matchups on the same, if say there's 3 good matchups, you're only going to get to 2 of them because the same team you're playing the next day. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. It's going to be interesting on a lot of levels this year. But and if you want to talk to any of the players, let me know. I'm sure they'd.
I definitely
be happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, I did a lot of basketball interviews during the summer, and I did a couple soccer interviews. I interviewed Laskauskas from St. Rose, and Ava Madoff, the goalie from Freehold. But I want to get more soccer players on because it was more basketball heavy. So I definitely, soccer is my primary sport. I know the basketball parents hate when I say that, but soccer is my first love, then basketball. So,
there you go.
After I get through, I'm trying to interview as many coaches as I can because the coverage around here is not that great for girls soccer. So and then after that, I want to start getting some players on here. Yeah,
that's great. I appreciate it. How is it being having the same name as a famous rock musician?
When I was younger, I heard a lot. I heard all the jokes when I was younger. Not so much now, but definitely when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, it's not quite like being named Bruce Springsteen or something like that, but because he's not that famous. But I'm a Nick Lowe fan, so there you go.
Yeah, a lot of my parents' friends. That's when I was younger. That's who I heard it from. So.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. So it's all good stuff.
Yep. All right, Coach. Thank you for joining.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nick.
You have a good
All
day.
right, take care. You too.